Hey there. Hope everybody's having an awesome start to their week. I wanted to start you guys off with a little inspiration for your writing. So I was thinking about what advice I would give to any writer. And I have a lot of people come up to me and say, "Oh, I started writing a book. I've been thinking about writing a book. Can you recommend a few things?" The best thing that I can tell anyone is to start by planning the book. I want to tell you guys about the first book that I ever wrote. I was in middle school and I was bored in homeroom, and I thought, oh, I've read hundreds of books by this point. I was bored a lot in elementary school. So surely I can write a book myself. And I loved mystery books. So I sat down and just started writing these mystery stories. And they weren't horrible, but they weren't that great. There was a lot of underdeveloped characters, a lot of plot points that just got exposed really fast, very easy to solve mysteries. But, I was, what, 11, 12 years old. So it was a pretty good start. Hey there, Shelley. Hey, thanks for joining me. It was a pretty good start for somebody who had never written a book before. But the biggest thing I saw when I finished the book was it was 10 pages long, 15 pages at the most. It was all written on, handwritten on notebook paper. And a lot of that problem was because I hadn't done any sort of planning for it. I had no idea where I was going. I didn't know what direction to take these characters in. I had these vague relationships in my head and these, bad guys I'd come up with. But I would just sit down and write until I ran into a wall, basically. And I don't want you guys to do that when you're working on your books for your business. You have to start out by figuring out what you're going to do in this book. And I always recommend that you lay out a chapter by chapter outline and have an end point in mind. You wouldn't I love this example. You wouldn't get in the car and say, well, I'm going on vacation. I have a whole week to go on vacation, and then just start driving south. Yeah, it's warm. Where are you going to end up? You may end up taking a wrong turn and heading off to California, which, if that's where you want to go, awesome. It's going to take a long time to get there, though. What if you take a wrong turn and end up in New Jersey? I wouldn't recommend that either. So, when you're planning a vacation, you actually plan the vacation. You sit down and say, hey, I want to go to Florida for a week. I'm going to stay at a hotel. I'm going to visit Disney World. I'm going to visit my family that lives down there. I'm going to take a day to myself and go to the spa or whatever. You make plans. You figure out, I have 7 days. This is what I'm going to do. It's the same with a book. You have to sit down and say, I want to have a 100-page book. Let me just start out with 10 chapters. 10 chapters, 10 pages a piece. That sounds like a pretty good plan. Start by figuring out where you want to end up, and that's the best way to actually end up there. I'm sure you've heard this advice for basically anything you do in life. I know I talked a little bit back in December about the same sort of thing when we were making cookies. You wouldn't start out with, just throwing random stuff in a bowl and hoping for cookies. You may end up with salad, or you may end up with the wrong kind of cookie. You wouldn't start out your child in school and say, hey, just take whatever classes you think of and, whatever has space in it, and maybe you'll end up getting all your credits in and be able to graduate from high school. You have a plan. You have to sit down and say, hey, you need 2 Spanish classes to be able to get into college, or you need to have some science classes if you want to major in biology. For your book, you have to look through and see what elements you need to be able to reach your goal. So I want to start you out with that. Make sure you're doing an outline. You figure out who this book is even for. Make sure you figure out what you want to do with the book. All those things are essential to think about up front. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope if you're looking at writing a book that you sit down and plan it out before you do it, because trust me, as somebody who has not planned books before, it takes a long time and a lot of editing to clean up a mess once you've got it all typed out. So have a great day.